All right, joining us now, her name is Veronica Sites. She's a grief counselor. She's also a chaplain. And with the world being turned upside down, I thought we could turn to somebody who may have a bit more wisdom than I do or than you do. Hi, Veronica. Hi. So we're talking about the impact on all of us with the grief that I think many of us are feeling, or the shock or the disassociation we're feeling with what the heck is going on around us. What do you tell people?
Well, we have been hit hard, gut punch after gut punch. And one is to recognize that, under the circumstances, not being able to process. The worst thing that anybody can do is really become blunt about it and suppress it, because it will rear its head up at some point or another. Just recognizing under the circumstances, we're all feeling a lot of stress. And we need to acknowledge that we're human. We've got some needs, and our body's going to start to fatigue in ways where it disrupts sleep, lack of concentration, forgetting things a little above and beyond what is normal to our everyday life. Just because of...
Veronica, let me ask you this, because it's so weird. Like when I turned on the television the other morning before I was heading out, and I saw there was another killing now of the cops being murdered and ambushed, I viscerally got goosebumps and started to cry. And then literally 20 minutes later, I just cut it off. I couldn't even feel it anymore because it was so overwhelming. Is that abnormal?
We can become numb because it becomes we've been hit with it so hard, we don't want it to become a normal, but the initial shock, it doesn't completely wear off before you're hit by the other one. So we begin to go into a coping mode of disassociating so that we don't become so overwhelmed. And that's, it is a response. It's coping mechanisms that a lot of people implement. But my passion for pursuing things right after they happen is because later, to deal with PTSD, a lot of it is the psyche impact that it has on people, but it's also that impact becomes learned behaviors of pattern that is very hard to unlearn. So getting to learn on the front end, what are some triggers, what are some things that are normal, some things to watch for, what you can do to care for yourself, because we're going to feel it. And none of us like to interact with pain, but we have to ask ourselves, okay, yeah, it stinks, it hurts real bad right now, I don't want to feel it.
You know what bothers me a lot about it, Veronica, when I hear people, and this is what I've been trying to address so much, is that we have to... You don't have to hear anything if you don't want to. Their families can't even get along at Thanksgiving. So when you think that dynamic of a mother and a daughter haven't talked in 20 years, or this brother hates that brother for the last decade, you wonder how a country can heal when families can't even heal and come together. That's what I wonder, the enormity of it. It almost seems like an impossible task.
Well, it is. And, the only thing that any of us can do is to choose what we're going to do to make a difference for improvement on that. We can't control any other's behavior, response, reaction. But as far as it is within us to do what is going to allow and impact peace so that we can go to bed at the end of the day and actually rest instead of playing the what if and, mulling over everything that triggered us, escalated our minds, and just, letting all that fester.
Yeah.
We get to take that responsibility. We get to choose that. And some of us choose, some of us do not choose to say, as far as I can do something, at least I'll do my part to improve situations. I
want to let folks know if you have a question or a comment for Veronica Sites, a grief counselor. I mean, we're all dealing with this collectively. The number here is 8080810. You look at the cops' families. You look at the little child of the black man killed in a car in Minnesota. You look at Baton Rouge. You look at all these killings. You look at France. You see people mowed down. You think of Syrian refugees with their mothers and children being drowned off of boats that capsized. You think of the Statue of Liberty, say, giving us you're tired, you're poor, but we don't really mean it. So it's like, it's so overwhelming. And you say, do what you can do. I don't know what I can do other than smile nicely at the produce aisle at Trader Joe's. Like, I don't even know what I can do. I don't even know what I can do. I feel overwhelmed. What am I going to do? I don't even know what to do. Tell me what to do. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, you know what? You're doing the right thing right now, and that's asking the questions, what can I do? I mean, we have learned a lot of things just by the models around us, the examples that, and one of the things is we can learn something to do from even the worst example, and that is don't do that. But choose to do something that,
definitely don't do that.
Ridiculous, but
don't go shooting people.
Don't go doing that, because one, it's not going to solve the problem. But secondly, it's like, okay, but what can I take from this? Because really the nation has been squeezed, and I can say very proudly of our community here in Dallas. I know. Following the shooting, we've got a lot of people hurting, but what has been squeezed out is an effort of reconciliation, an effort of people reaching out across the, their comfort zones. We'll just say comfort zones simply because we are all hurt by it. And there was nobody when those shots were fired that was not in jeopardy, because nobody knew where they were aimed at. They just knew there was gunfire all over the place.
I'm speaking with a Veronica Sites. She is a grief counselor, a chaplain. If you have a question for her, we're talking about just dealing what's going on in our world, globally, nationally, specifically to yourself. 8080810 is the number. I mean, I think we've all been slam dunk punched in the gut repeatedly. You get up and bam, you're down again, knocked out with what's going on between cops and black men being killed left and right. It's been bizarre. And gay people in Orlando just...
And believe it or not, that was just a little bit over a month ago. And it seems like we're so far removed from it at this point. And really, I don't think all of us have had a chance to even process that instance at this point.
I know. And then you wake up, you go, this can't be happening again. It's like Groundhog's Day, but only worse.
Yeah.
You know that movie that I hated? Now I really hate it because we're living it. Okay, Veronica, you're a grief counselor and a chaplain. Like, I know the word chaplain. I know Charlie Chaplin. I know chaplains, but what do you do? Like, what does a chaplain really do? Like, what do you get up and do?
Okay, so we can marry them, bury them, and do anything in between as far as, that's it in a nutshell.
All right, marry and bury. That's good. Those are important things.
We marry and bury, anything between those two things. We bring hope and help to extraordinary circumstances. So we're not the pastor of the church. We're not the priest. We're the ones that are licensed, ordained, and sent out into the community to do things beyond. We're not out there preaching. We're out there helping and meeting people where the pain is and offering the hope and help that's necessary for that situation.
Well, we have a call for you, Veronica. Lori from Los Gatos on. Let's go to line 2. Lori, what's your question for Veronica Sites, grief counselor and chaplain?
Yes, hi. I wanted to ask Veronica, I was just curious. My niece just graduated from USC and got her master's, and now she's doing her 3,000 hours of, to be a psychologist. And I keep forgetting to ask her, so I'll ask you, what as a grief counselor, what do you tell someone who has just lost a husband, or their husband last night was stabbed to death, or their daughter drowned? I mean,
my God.
What is it that you can say to them to make, when they come in sobbing, and I mean, how do you counsel them to help them cope?
Well, one of the things is it's not a set recipe, and by all means, we're taught and trained. You don't say that you understand, even though you may have had a similar loss. The level of trauma to a loss requires a lot of just being present, and that sounds so non-academic, but to be present and just listen, hold, and not offer words can be more powerful in the time of shock than trying to say the right thing. And by human nature, we want to have something to say because we all want to offer hope. But sometimes the greatest hope is just reassuring that there's someone there to walk with them while they are hurting. They don't have to sit there alone in their pain. There's somebody beside them.
Veronica, I think that's so poignant. I have my best friend lost her son in a rock climbing accident. It'll be 3 years this August. And she said there's life before and life after. And I just sent her a note today. I said, I don't know what you go through, but I'm here and I'm thinking of you. What else can you do? I mean, what else can you do? I saw a woman crying today. I said, how are you? And I don't know what was going on in her life. She said, I'm just so upset. I can't even talk and I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, well, I guess I wish you well, and I guess you just have to be there till you're not, right? What do you do? I don't know.
Yeah. And then right now with all of the blows that we've taken, I mean, we've had a barrage of things. So people that have been struggling, even even to the extent that they may live with depression and just have all this bombarding news, there are a lot of things that people already carried in before the first bad news with Orlando. And then, then we start getting this barrage over the last 2 weeks. It's boom, boom, boom. Compound and complexing what people are carrying. And the worst part about it, Maureen, is that if it was a outside wound, we would know how to tend to it, or we'd at least respond accordingly. The problem here is that we have invisible wounds, and they're deep, and they are things that need attention, but our fear and our desire not to be vulnerable with one another really puts us at a disadvantage, and not seeking, or even wanting to say, hey, I need some help over here. I'm drowning.
Well, I'm speaking with grief counselor Veronica Sites. She's also a chaplain. The number's 8080810 if you have a question. You said something that I've been trying to address with people, not just in relation to what's going on in the country. Well, of course, what's going on in the country, but in life in general, like, we're so defensive, and nobody more than me. If there was ever a beauty pageant for somebody who was around a 7 or an 8 in college, I would have won Miss Defensive. That's what I would have gotten. Some people get Miss Photogenic. I would have gotten Miss Defensive. But to break down that wall, I've worked very hard on it, Veronica. But that's what we're doing now. When somebody says Black Lives Matters, we get defensive. White lives, everybody's life matters. Okay, that does too. But we get so defensive where everybody's coming from that we don't even hear them. I can barely watch the news because it's so politicized now. They're taking people's pain and they're blaming, it's this one, it's the president's fault, it's black people, it's white cops' fault. Like, we're just so pointing the finger at each other instead of trying to say what is going on inside of you so we can address it.
It is, and what is hard, my area, especially when I'm not responding to conflict or, tragedies like this, is communication. And the thing is, that blame game, it's popular. But the thing about it is, we don't ask ourselves the question. We're asking, what's causing all the pain and suffering in the world? And my question is, well, how much of that pain are you addressing in your own life?
Perfect. Carl
because
Young.
one of the things I get to ask people, and I say get to ask them, is, in that moment when we have an encounter after a tragedy and they get to a place where they can identify how they're feeling, and that's usually not till 72 hours after the event. But when they can identify that, I ask them, okay, don't get mad for me asking you this, but I want to ask you, how long do you want to feel like that? And just get them to begin to realize it's like, this is not where I want to stay.
Well, Brian has a very important question for you.
Absolutely. And part of the reason why we chose to do this topic is because after the Dallas tragedy where those police officers were shot by a sniper, my wife's up to her and said, my 6-year-old daughter today asked me what a sniper was. And he's like, I just didn't know even where to begin to start talking to her about this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, is there a good way to approach your kids if you're a parent and you're seeing all this stuff in the news? And obviously you try to probably shelter them as much as you can, but you can't keep everything out of their heads, and out of their eyes and away from them.
The thing that is important, and I do have a couple of downloads at my website for parents on how to talk to children and also how to watch for changes in behaviors that might indicate that there's some attention that needs to be met with care, and that is age appropriate. That the 6-year-old, she's probably already been to school and is having interactions with friends. So,
yeah.
I mean, is there a good way to approach your kids if you're a parent and you're seeing all this stuff in the news? And obviously you try to probably shelter them as much as you can, but you can't keep everything out of their heads, and out of their eyes and away from them.
The thing that is important, and I do have a couple of downloads at my website for parents on how to talk to children and also how to watch for changes in behaviors that might indicate that there's some attention that needs to be met with care, and that is age appropriate. That the 6-year-old, she's probably already been to school and is having interactions with friends. So asking them, well, what are you hearing? Example about the sniper. Well, where did you hear that? And then give them a truthful, simple answer. A sniper is a trained gunsman that is intended to use for our military or for when there's a bad guy.
Yeah.
However, people make bad choices, and this man had a lot of problems that needed some help, but he didn't know where to get the help. Just simplicity.
Keep it simple. Yeah.
Keep it simple. Grade school kids, they're going to be asking a lot of questions. They're going to have a little bit more behavioral type of, maybe an outburst, or maybe more clingy, standing nearby, because they get it. They understand that there's danger, and they want to be reassured. It's important that as adults we reassure them that within our family, we're going to do everything we can to help us to all feel safe.
Yeah, I didn't grow up in that kind of family. Good for these kids. Good.
And we would hope for that. But here's the awesome thing is, again, when the horrible stuff happens, we are all ridiculously in charge of the choices that we make, and we can seize the teachable moment. It's like, I didn't have that, but
yes, of
how
course.
can I be that?
I want to give your website out before we have to jump out of here. Veronica, what's your website?
It's conflictresolutionspeaker.com.
Thank you. I wish we had forever with you. You're a delight, and we appreciate your time this evening.
Well, thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
You too. Veronica Sites. I'm Maureen Langan. This is KGO, San Francisco, San Jose, and Oakland.